Okay, so we're going to get into operations with functions. So we got these two we're going to do, and we also have part C and D as well. So for part A here, the definition that we have in the notes says that this is equal to f of x plus g of x. So for these, we're going to find them first. We're also going to talk about the domain of these. So let's first add that together. F of x and g of x are given here. So we're going to do x squared minus 9x, and we're going to add negative 6x to it. So just adding whatever g of x is, and that negative does have to go along with g of x. We're going to simplify it, and we get x squared minus 15x as our answer. And you could factor it, or it's okay to leave your answer in that form as well. Now, it also asks for a domain on these. Now what we have here is a polynomial. So whenever you have a polynomial, you have multiple terms raised to certain powers. We never have any restrictions on what values for x we can put in there. So the only thing with domain we have to worry about is dividing by 0, or taking the square of a negative number. So your domain is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity. It's going to include all reals in that situation. Now for this one, we have f of x minus g of x, and so we're going to put in the functions for that, x squared minus 9x. And we're also going to be subtracting negative 6x here, subtracting the negative. So with that, be careful with these two negative signs here. That's going to end up giving you negative 9 plus 6, which is going to give you x squared minus 3x. Again, if we want to do domain in this one, their domain is going to be all reals once again, because we still have a polynomial that's left over. So now let's take a look at C and D. Okay, for parts C and D, for this one we have f times g of x. This one is f of x times g of x is what that notation means. We're going to multiply both these together. We've got x squared minus 9x. We're multiplying that by negative 6x. So for this one, we're just going to go ahead and multiply that using the distributive property. We get negative 6x cubed. Two negatives gives you a positive. You get a 54 there, and that's going to be x squared. What do we get again? We have another polynomial. Polynomials, we know again, the domain is going to have to be, once again, all reals, negative infinity to positive infinity. Now the last one we have d, f over g, that is f of x divided by g of x. So we're going to put in our functions for that, x squared minus 9x over negative 6x. Okay, now I know we can do some reducing on it, but before you do reducing, this is where you're going to look at the domain. Notice that there is an x in the bottom, so we're not allowed to divide by 0. If we put a 0 in there, we know that it's going to be undefined. So for the domain in this one, we have to include everything except for 0. Okay, so we'll include everything less than 0, everything greater than 0, but 0 itself is not included. Now the reason why it's important to do this before we reduce is because if we cancel out an x from top and bottom, then it reduces to this. If we did that step first, we may not have gotten the correct domain. So for these kind of problems, particularly the one with division is the one you have to be concerned about. Before you do any reducing, do the domain, and then for your final answer you can still reduce it. Now this one you can also write, if you switch the order of that, a negative comes out and would cancel with the one down below. So equivalently you could also write your answer as 9 minus x over positive 6. So again, just make sure you do this part first with domain. So domain is all reals in this one except for 0.